still tuned into the Power Station Energy 100 with myself, Elsie Timiani, as your hostess on Econ and Chat. Let's Talk Business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. We are talking about the cost of living crisis that we are dealing with, specifically in Namibia. But Mr. Daniel Steinman, I left... before we went on a break, I did talk about, for the listeners to think of how many products they had to downgrade or downscale.
They were forced to downgrade.
Forced to downgrade, absolutely. So I made examples like while we were on a break, not on a break, before we started, we actually had this talk about, NAM milk being more expensive than
the imported South African milk.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is a question that a lot of people are actually asking. Why is NAM milk more expensive than Clover or other South African brands? Can you just give the listeners that short
I know the
reason?
answer, but I don't want to say this answer.
Of course, we don't want to say that, this is what Mr. Daniel Steinman said. It's not, a fact, but, just in your opinion, what do you think?
Elsie, let's take the next step in the sequence of events that I'm illustrating here. And before the break, I said the first reaction is avoidance.
Yeah.
That is a forced reaction.
Yeah.
Usually when people can move to a new product, they go more upmarket because their budgets allow it. So what happens now? We are in a crisis. Remember, I said very clearly, this is not just cost of living, this is cost of living crisis. It has become unaffordable. So now they substitute, or they avoid, they are forced into avoidance, and they stop buying certain products or stop using certain services. And the second step is then substitution, which is also just a very fancy word for circumstances are forcing me to go for something cheaper.
Yeah.
But you will see in the last part of our discussion, there are also positives built into this. And I'll come back to that. So when you get to the level of substitution, my favorite example, and I'm going to get to the milk now.
Yeah.
My favorite example is peanut butter. 40 years ago, when I was a small boy, there was only one peanut butter, Black Cat. And there was a jingle on the radio, Black Cat, peanut butter. And that was the only peanut butter. It sounds very, very, almost as if I'm exaggerating, but it's true.
I also just know peanut butter.
It was just Black
Cat back in the days.
And then in the 70s, when we had the first bout of really serious inflation, Black Cat became too expensive. And what happened? It suddenly opened the market for other manufacturers to come in with their own products at a price below Black Cat. And what did you see? What did consumers do? They substituted. They went from Black Cat to Yum Yum to whatever, to Zambian peanut butter, to Mozambican peanut butter, Zimbabwean peanut butter, everything but Black Cat. And that forced, Black Cat was one of the major, I think it is Tiger Foods, I'm under correction here, but one of the big groups in South Africa. Black Cat was one of their most important lines. And it forced them to actually buy out other peanut butter manufacturers, so that because they were becoming too competitive. They were just pushing Black Cat peanut butter out of the market. And you can go into the supermarket today and you see Tokoman and Yum Yum and Black Cat and whoever, White Bear, I'm joking. But you see a fairly large assortment of different types of peanut butter. So the consumer has a choice. And I'm always amazed at the very big price range. You can buy 1 kilogram of a certain type of peanut butter for 58 Namibia dollars, and the other one is 89. Now reconcile that again in your mind. How is it possible? But it happens, and this is what happens when substitution takes place. I'm always reluctant to talk too much about the milk industry in Namibia, because in economics we talk about elasticity of price, and obviously when you talk about, and that means just what flexibility is there on the side of manufacturers or marketers to increase their prices or to reduce their prices. You see this mechanism very actively in the new car market, where most of the cheaper cars are not priced according to what it costs to make them, but they are priced according to what the person who wants a car is prepared to pay. You know, and this is how we can talk about this on a different day. It's called consumer psychology. It's a whole big discipline. There are people who do doctorates in consumer psychology, and there are big companies who pay very, very fat salaries for their employees if they can figure out computer psychology. It's a whole discipline. You know, it's a terrain on its own. But if you talk about elasticity of price, the ability of prices to be adjusted, it means by implication that there is an inelasticity of price, the opposite, how sticky prices are. And for certain products, and I'll just mention two, prices are very sticky. You can substitute your soap, your toothpaste, your rice, your mealie meal, your peanut butter, your vegetables, but you cannot substitute your taxi fare. It's a very inelastic price because it is set. It's a regulated industry. You can play around with milk and buy South African milk and wait for the special, but Namibian milk, you will see there's a floor below which Namibian milk never goes. It is Namibian milk cannot really compete with South African milk. And the reason is very simple. It's because we do not have economies of scale. In South Africa, they produce in the region of about 200 million liters of milk a day. And I don't think in Namibia we produce 200,000 liters. It's by a factor of 100 less than in South Africa. So we simply don't have the economies of scale. You know, but milk is a product that has to be produced at a certain standard. So you can't cut corners. So it's a relatively expensive production process. And that's the reason why our milk is so much more expensive, because we have to produce milk at the same standard, but in very, very, very much smaller quantities than what it is produced in South Africa.
Okay. All right, so I hope that the listeners did understand why Namibian milk is more expensive than, foreign milk. So it's advisable, also to play a role in the economy is to support local. So let's go on a short break on that note, and then once we come back, we will do our last section of Econo Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman.